Hello, fellow classmates. Our names are Connor Savant, Damaris Corona, and Gabriela Escalante. The film we have chosen to analyze for this project was the sleeper hit independent film known as Juno. Juno first premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival on September 8th of 2007. There it received a standing ovation. It was then released in theaters on December 5th of 2007. It was produced by the production companies Fox Searchlight Pictures, Mandate Pictures, and Mr. Mudd. The film was directed by Jason Reitman with the original screenplay written by Diablo Cody. Juno served as Jason Reitman's first major film to ever earn him mainstream success. This film was also the first screenplay Diablo Cody had ever written.
The film features Ellen Page as Juno MacGuff, Michael Cera as Polly Bleecker. Juno is a 16-year-old girl who is pregnant by Polly Bleecker, and Polly Bleecker is her 16-year-old baby daddy and long-term admirer.
The film also stars Jennifer Garner as Vanessa Loring and Jason Bateman as Mark Loring. Vanessa and Mark are the couple who plan to adopt Juno's child once it is born. However, throughout their film, the relationship is on the rocks, and by the end, they divorce, and Vanessa decides to adopt the child and raise it on her own. Lastly, the film stars Allison Janney as Bren MacGuff and J.K. Simmons as Mac MacGuff. Bren is Juno's stepmother. Mac is Juno's biological father. For those of you who recognize J.K. Simmons, he starred as Fletcher in Whiplash, the movie we saw a few weeks ago. For those of you who have never seen the film Juno, nor heard of it, the plot summary is as follows. It started with a chair and ended with two teenagers. The film follows 16-year-old Juno MacGuff, who is faced with an unplanned pregnancy at the hands of her long-term admirer, Polly Bleecker.
As the film progresses, we follow pregnant Juno throughout the film. We see Juno struggle with trials and tribulations. We see the progression of the seasons, and along with that, we see her experience judgment, confusion, and self-doubt. We couldn't agree more in saying that Juno is a hybrid of more than one genre. It draws out comedic elements, making a hard situation seem much more lighthearted. Drama comes natural in unordinary situations. Finally, romance is needed to have an emotional side to the film.
And here are a few examples on how comedy, romance, and drama all have roles in this film.
The three major themes of the film are teen pregnancy, boundaries, and communication.
One of the major themes of the film, teen pregnancy, is depicted not necessarily as a bad situation, but rather as a real one, as the film decides to brush over topics that society typically shies away from.
Examples that depict this are how Juno really feels during her pregnancy, when she says to Polly, "At least you don't have to hide the evidence under your sweater."
With Juno saying this, it's showing a real situation with her thoughts and how she basically is expressing how alone she is. And by doing this, she's making an indirect statement to Polly that he can't relate to.
Other major themes of the film include boundaries and communication. Throughout the film, we see Juno struggling to understand the concept of boundaries between adults and teenagers. We also see the struggle and the lack of communication between Juno and the father of her child, Polly. Examples of how the themes of boundaries and communication are depicted throughout the film are with the relationship between Juno and Mark, as they begin to form a questionable friendship, with Bren pointing out to Juno he's a married man. Mark and Vanessa also appear to have communication issues, as it appears they were not on the same page about the adoption. Important symbols seen throughout the film include the hamburger phone, one of which is owned by Juno and one of which is owned by Polly. Fingernails, which are mentioned early on, Polly Bleeker's race car bed, horror movies, which are viewed by both Mark and Juno, and orange Tic Tacs, which happen to be Polly's favorite snack. The hamburger phone seen throughout the film represents Juno's immaturity and youth. In an ironic twist, Juno and Polly both happen to own one of these hamburger phones, yet there is a lack of communication between them both. Before entering an abortion clinic, Juno's fellow classmate Sin Chu mentions to Juno that her baby has fingernails. At first, Juno thinks nothing of this, but once she is inside the clinic, she notices many other guests fidgeting with their nails, painting their nails, and anxiously playing with their fingers. After seeing all of these guests biting their nails and such, Juno becomes anxious and finally decides to leave the clinic. Perhaps the fingernails represent the fact that Juno acknowledges that her baby is in fact a living organism and that she cannot bring herself to terminate its life. Horror films, or rather older classical horror films, which are viewed by Mark and Juno in one scene, represents, or rather is a little nudge to how back in those days, teen pregnancy was viewed as something rather horrific. Like with any major film, Juno utilizes specific techniques involving lighting and color, cinematography, sound, music, and editing, all of which we will be discussing and giving examples of.
My personal opinion about the movie Juno. I thought it was very strong acting from Ellen Page. Michael Cera, in every movie, he has the same role, just stands there with that blank, goofy look on his face and pretty much just sells it.
Throughout the film, we are given very strong performances by the lead actors Ellen Page, Michael Cera, and the rest of the supporting cast. The film does a great job at creating sympathetic characters who you actually feel for. The emotions and situations are depicted very well, and the film does a good job at giving a glimpse